So hey everybody, it's Panfish Guy. We're out here in the garage and we are working on a project today. Just as a little teaser, I picked up some electronic gear the other day. I'm endeavoring to kind of get my act together on how this is going to install, get some wiring routed in the boat. Anyway, hang out. We're going to do a Livescope installation. Yay! All right, kids, so the gentleman who had this boat before me had a Livescope in it. So he kind of gave me a little bit of guidance as far as how his was set up, and I've got some ideas on what I want to do. The difference between what he had and what I'm going to have set up here is that his was routed off of the cranking battery. I'm doing it a little different because the setup I have has a switch for DeWalt tools. So we're going to be basically installing the power setup in the box with the black control box, and all the power is going to be running out of that area. Basically, I'm going to be putting all my Garmin components and routing on my wiring out of this storage box here on the left side of the boat. Let's see what we got in here. Wiring. So I've got two power wires to run, which those are both going to be running off the same power source, and then a transducer cable to that side of the boat. This would be a good time to have a wire fish. Luckily, my neighbor gave me one. So at this point, I'm prepping my wiring before I pull it under the deck of the boat. I put on butt connectors and SAE quick connectors on the wire ends, and I got my fusible links situated where I wanted them so they could be easily changed. It took a while to get it all like I wanted, and I changed my mind several times before I finally settled on what I wanted. Okay, so I got my wires running into the box here. So here's my transducer cable, here's my power. My only concern is that when I pull that wire all the way up out of the access hole up front here, my link was where it was going to be up inside underneath the deck here, and I just moved it out to this end so that that's right where my power is going to connect, and that way where my battery feed is going to connect. That way, if I have a problem with that, I don't have to take this entire box out and dig that wire out to change a fuse. So made my life a little easier that way. My next challenge was figuring out how to mount the control box and switch in the storage box where they were easy to get to. My network cable and power lead to the Garmin unit were going to come up a little bit short, so I had to drill a hole in the front of the storage box to give me a little more wire to work with. This was a bit of a process, and I called it quits and regrouped to come back at it the following day. All right, kids, we are back for round 2, working on my install. So where we left off the other day was I ran into a bit of a snafu as to how to run two devices off of this tool battery. So went on to Amazon and I got me a splitter. Basically it's an SAE, and I decided for my connections to go with an SAE connection, kind of like so. I'm going to put this switch for the battery sitting kind of like so in my box. It's going to mount kind of like that, and that way that battery's kind of sitting down on that, even though it's locked onto that switch. Probably gravity probably wouldn't hurt. I think I got all my hardware except for my one cord here, and then I've also got a pass-through. Basically what I'm going to do is I've got a 25-foot SAE cable that I'm going to run from this box back to the battery compartment in the back. And in the event I lose power for some reason, I forget to charge my batteries, I've got a bypass where I can just plug that splitter pigtail in and hook it up to the battery back there, and I'm good to go. There was a slot here in the back. The problem is it was gonna stretch my cables a little bit, and I didn't know if I was gonna have enough room to get that unit up on a mount. So I went ahead and just cut a hole through here so the cables will just come through here. I'm gonna mount my power switch on this side so that it can just, the battery can sit down there. Now you can see. Got my box, got my control box here, my switch here, all my wiring's running in through here, my power to the power head, and my network cable, and my transducer cable. And I'm gonna have a splitter running off of here, and this will power both the Garmin unit itself and the control box here. I think that gets my power box done. I need to get my mount and all my cables situated up front here for the electronics units. I'm going to keep my Hummingbird unit. I've got a double mount that I got from Cornfield Crappie Gear that I'm going to put on the front. So now we're moving on to the mount. So here's what I'm dealing with up here. This is the Hummingbird mount that I'm taking off. And then you can see here where Mr. Chappelle, the previous owner, had his mount for his Livescope on here. He had a balls out mount, I guess it's called. I ended up going with Cornfield Crappie Gear because that's, you know, what I'm familiar with. I'm going to get this mount the rest of the way off of here, and I needed some extra tools because it was being difficult. And then we'll move on to trying to get this mount situated on here. Probably drill a couple holes and get it snugged down, and then figure out the rest. Here we go. Alright, hey guys, here's my final setup on my Livescope. This is my power box on the front of the boat, and I've got all my power running out of this box. I've got my black box, my controller box, got my network cables, my power here, and got my battery switch for the DeWalt Sea-Lite battery switch for DeWalt tool systems. I've got 4 5 amp hour DeWalt batteries, 20 volts, and the Livescope has no issues, have had no issues with running on 20 volts. So I usually get about 4 hours per battery. So I can fish probably 20 hours with this Livescope on with the 4 batteries I got. So I got my power running off my switch here for my tool battery, and I've got a pigtail here, and this pigtail's it's a Y fitting, right? So I've got one running up to, this one runs up to the power head, to the Garmin unit on the front of the boat. This one powers this one right here, if I can get it, okay. That one right there runs power to the controller box right here. I've also got a secondary wire coming in the back here, and this feeds back to the cranking battery on the back of the boat, and I got these SAE connectors on here. So in the event that, say, I forget to charge my batteries, or forget my batteries, or something goes wrong with this pigtail here, I've got a direct connect back to the cranking batteries. My preference is to run all of the power out of this box, just so it's independent and I don't have to worry about killing my cranking battery during the day, because I've heard stories about it. So, and I got a little storage box for my extra batteries here, so I should be all set with my power stuff here. So moving on. So here's my setup on the front. Again, I've got my cornfield crappie gear double mount, and here's the back setup on that. I got some road grime on it from driving on the salty roads last weekend. I got my transducer cable routed up through my access hole over there, and again, the system I had was set up with a separate pole for the transducer, a sea light pole. So I went ahead and used that. I mounted it's a sea light pole, transducer pole on here. Got a little, it's a handy little deal here, and it, like I say, it's hand operated. You can adjust it up and down as you wish. I actually moved this up a little higher on my last trip because I was standing most of the day, so went about it that way. And then here's the bottom part of that. I got a little cover from the bass tank for the head, for the transducer head, and then I got a little pole here to kind of snug that down, and when I'm moving it doesn't bounce around when I'm going down the road, so or down the lake too. And then I've got my power, my extra power cable, but I ran my extra power cable and my cable from my anchor on down all the way back to the battery in the back, and that's my secondary power in case I have an issue. So anyway, that is the extent of my setup. Hey everybody, don't forget to check out our friends at my724outdoors.com on the web and Facebook, and check out my Facebook and Instagram pages. Also coming soon, panfishguy.com. You can now also follow me at panfishg on Twitter. Check it out. Hey, knock it off.